All right. So what we are going to talk about today is just kind of having a system, a process to follow to work with each one of your sellers, because we want to make sure that the more systematic your business is, the less chance you have things falling through the cracks, right? Like you don't miss steps. And what we want you guys to become is kind of like, I want to say robots, but that your system is identical no matter who you're working with. Because ultimately, the biggest issue that a lot of us have as agents is we treat sellers differently, and we don't do all the same steps with every one of our sellers, especially when it's a referral or it's a family member, or it's a friend. We kind of push aside that professionalism that we would have if we were working with a total stranger. So let's look at having a very specific system and steps. And at the end of this, I have, again, the notes all printed and ready for you guys, typed up, that I can send you, and a little task list, a checklist to kind of keep you on track with your process of working with your sellers. So let me do this so I can share the screen. And all right, so you guys should be seeing that seller process screen there in front of you. So I can see everybody. All right, perfect. Okay, so let's jump right in. First off, let's see. Pre-qualifying. I think one of the biggest issues that we skip when we're getting ready for our listing presentation. And what we're going to talk about today is not the prospecting side of it. It's not how to get sellers. This is, you guys know, to prospect. You've got to prospect to get your sellers. This is about, now I've set the appointment, I'm getting ready for the appointment, the process, and how I'm going to handle the things going forward with this potential seller. Okay. So the first thing is pre-qualify. And I think that's the first place that we drop the ball, is that we don't ask enough questions. We're so happy to get that yes that somebody said, please list my house, or come talk to me about listing my house, that we skip steps. We jump right to, let's just prepare the CMA and get everything ready, and let me go do my listing presentation. And part of that is that we do it because we're afraid if we ask too many questions, that yes is going to turn into a no. Right. And just like when we talked about with buyers last week, one of the hardest parts for you guys is when a buyer says, yes, I want to work with you, but they're not qualified to be a buyer. We have to say no to them. So it's difficult to say no to someone who was saying yes to you, especially since everything that we teach you is go out there and find the yes. So the same thing goes with sellers, is that we found somebody who's a potential seller who's willing to sit down at the table with us and have us give them a presentation with the hopes that they're going to list their home with us. And we don't pre-qualify them fully, because then we're afraid that as we ask those pre-qualifying questions, as we do those things, we're going to find out that they're not a good seller, right? Either that they're not motivated, that it's not going to work out, it's not a good idea to take the lead. We're going to find those things out, and then we're not going to have the appointment that we were so excited about, right? That we had worked so hard to get to. But pre-qualifying is going to help you when it comes to the presentation. The stronger your pre-qualifying is, the better your presentation is going to be, because pre-qualifying is going to help you to identify all of the objections that you may potentially run into when you're on the listing presentation. And when we fail to pre-qualify and we're not prepared for those objections that are going to come, we have to wing those objection handlers, or we're so unready for the objections that it catches us off guard and leaves us there like deers in the head, with like a deer in the headlights. And who wants to be honest and admit that you've gotten caught off guard with an objection that is something you should have known going in and you didn't? And that may or may not have been the reason why you didn't get that listing that you went on the appointment for. So that's why the pre-qualify is really one of the most important steps when it comes to preparing for the listing presentation. And you have to do it with everyone. So it's funny because obviously we're going to talk about Mike Ferry and his pre-qualifying. And one of the stories that Mike told when he was trying to impress about how important it is to pre-qualify everyone was his mistake. So Mike lived in Huntington Beach. He had neighbors that lived there for, many years next to him. And they had told him that they were needing to move. So he said, okay, well, great. I'd love to talk to you guys about it tomorrow. Can I see you tomorrow in the afternoon? And we'll go over all the information. And they said, yeah, sure. Come on over. He went over there, prepared for a listing presentation, did the whole thing, started talking to him about selling their house. And they said, Mike, we don't own this house. We've rented this house the whole time we're here. And he had no idea that they were renters because it never came up. But he also didn't pre-qualify because they were his neighbors, and he chose, he thought, this is a slam dunk, I'm going to get this. And so he didn't pre-qualify. So he went over there prepared to do a listing presentation for somebody who didn't even own the property. And so that's why it's important when we talk about the pre-qual, it's everybody. I don't care if it's a family member, if it was a direct referral, like, hey, come list me, right? Because we get those, right? We get those referrals from people like, hey, Gilbert, Jesus told me how great of an agent you are, so just come on over and list my house. That's fine. That's a great listing appointment to go to, but there's still all the pre-qual steps have to happen because I have to be prepared for the presentation. Just because they're prepared to already give me the listing doesn't mean, number one, that it's a listable property, or number two, that I even want the listing, right? I know it's tough to say, no, you don't want the listing, and especially in this market because you all want the listing, but it could just be a horrible listing that's not going to sell, and why would you want to waste your time putting that on the market? So pre-qual everyone. And the easiest way to do the pre-qual is to use the My Ferry script, right? There's a pre-qual script already printed for you, and you could do this pre-qualification the day before, a couple days before your appointment. You can read right off the page. Your seller's not going to see your face reading it. And so there's what the pre-qual script looks like. And here's the thing. You need to ask every question on this pre-qual script, right? Before I come out, there are a number of questions he'd ask you. Is that okay? If what I say makes sense and you feel comfortable and confident that I can sell your home, are you planning to list your home with me when I come out on Wednesday at 5? Right? They're going to answer that question probably, well, it depends on what you have to say, right? If they say yes, great. Are you planning to interview more than one agent for the job of selling your home? That is probably the most difficult question for you guys to ever ask inside this pre-qual script. But is it important to know if they're interviewing other agents? Right? You need to know if I'm just the only one they're going to talk to, or if I have competition going forward. And maybe knowing who that competition and when that competition is meeting with them is going to help you. Now, do you want to go on your listing appointment before the other appointments if they have other ones, or do you want to go after? Anybody want to volunteer to answer that question? What's your preference? I'm going to go first, or I'm going to go last. What would you prefer? Anybody want to share their preference?
I think that
For analytical people, you want to go last if you can.
Oh.
So Mario says you want to go last.
For analyticals.
No, just do you want to go? You identifying whether analytical on your pre-qual, that's one thing. But do you want to go first or last?
Last.
Okay. And Gilbert, what about you?
I'd go first.
First. And Melissa?
I think that you would want to go first, so you wow them, hit it out of the park in the beginning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So here's the good news. There's no wrong answer to that question because it's going to be your preference on your business. Now, the problem with choosing to go last is if one of those appointments is a strong closer, you're not even going to get your appointment. So you have to decide, are you a good closer? Because if you're not a good closer, going first isn't going to help you, right? If you're not going to close on this listing appointment, going first, you don't get the signature, then you got to wait through the other ones. But if you wait till the end and they have a great closer going ahead of you, there's a chance that you don't even get to present, right? So that's why asking the question is going to help also. Are you planning to interview more than one agent for the job of selling your home? A follow-up to that would be, may I ask, who are you interviewing? Because let me ask you this, Mario, you said go last, right? So that's fine. That's great for you. Go last. What if Luther and Jorge Gamboa, who are top two agents, what if they were the listing appointments before you? Would you still want to go last?
It's a good question.
Yeah.
Maybe I would change it, but I don't know.
Right. But you see how asking the pre-qualifying questions maybe changes your preparation for your presentation. Let's be honest. Nobody's going to get chastised. I'm not going to bully you. How many of you will admit that you do not ask these questions before your listing appointments?
I don't. I don't.
Okay. And you're not alone. You're not the only one. And I would tell you that, and some of our top producers, they're not really MFO. They don't follow MFO 100%, right? And they probably don't ask 100% of these questions, but they do ask some form of them. But for those of you guys that are building your skills and are getting better with working your sellers, this has to be the one thing you do 100% of, right? So are you planning on interviewing more than one agent for the job to sell your home? Tell me again, where are you moving to? Now, I would prefer, instead of you asking again, hey, Mario, where are you moving to, that you say to them, so Mario, you're moving to San Diego, right? Like you're reminding them the conversation that you had. And how you said you had to be there in the next 90 days, right? Like sound like you know who they are. Because if you ask the question like this, it sounds, I mean, I get it. It sounds a little bit like you forgot me, right? So this is about in your prospecting, knowing these answers so that you can go back and do this pre-qual. So when I see you, Mario, how much do you want to list your house for?
500,000.
500,000. You know, Mario, as a professional real estate agent, I study homes and prices every day. Therefore, I assume you're going to list your home with me at a price that's going to cause it to sell. Is that correct?
Correct.
Great. So what price won't you go below?
490.
490. Terrific. Now, how much do you owe on this one, Mario?
200,000 or so.
200,000, a little over 200,000. Now, have you ever thought about selling it yourself?
Thought about it, but it's too much work.
Okay. Yeah, it is a lot of work. You're right. Now, are you planning on helping to finance the home for the buyer, or do you need all your cash out?
Oh no, I need all my cash out to put it towards the next purchase.
Perfect. Okay, so you need all your cash out. Great. Now, just give me like a brief description of your house. Just give me some idea what the house looks like, because I haven't been over there yet.
3-bedroom, 2-bath with a pool. There's a new roof. You know, we just put in laminate flooring. We have a fireplace and central air and heating.
Okay, great. Sounds nice. Anything special? What's like your favorite thing? What's your
The
favorite?
pool, being at the pool. You know, it's hot summer days, especially here in California.
Yeah, no kidding. Today would be a great day for the pool.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. So now this next question, I'm stepping out of this role play. This next question, number 10, don't say it if you're not going to send over a package of information. Okay, right? If you're not going to send over the pre-listing package, don't say this part. If you are, then go ahead and say this. I'll be sending over a package of information. Will you take a few minutes to review it? And then you ask this question: do you have any questions before I arrive? One of the most important questions on there, because that is where they're going to start, right? Like early in this conversation, we talked about how much they want to list their house for. That's going to tell me in my presentation how strong I have to be on price, right? Because if Mario told me 500,000 and the house is worth 450, we already got an issue, right? So I got to be really strong on price. But if the house is worth 525 and he told me 500, all right, I don't have to be so hard on price. I can just walk in there and go, here you go. This is what we're going to sell it for. But right now, when we get down to this part where I say, do you have any questions before I arrive? This is the part where you're going to reveal the objections they're going to have, because this question that they ask is going to be one of their first objections, right? So Mario, do you have any questions before I arrive?
How much do you charge in commission?
That's a great question. That'll be one of the first things that we talk about on tomorrow when I see you at 5. Do you have any other questions for me?
No, I just kind of want to know what I'm going to net once we sell it.
And that's part of the presentation we're going to go through. I'm going to bring you a whole net sheet. It's going to show you all the fees and charges and exactly what you're going to take home at the end of it.
Okay, perfect. No, that was it.
Okay. Is there a number that you need to net? Because I know you said your bottom price was 490, but is there an amount you need to net that you feel you need to net?
No, I would just like to be, 250 would really put me in the driver's seat.
Okay.
Would help me a lot.
Okay. Terrific. Just so you know, our meeting's only going to take between 5 and 25 minutes. Is that okay?
Yeah, that's fine. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Terrific. So I look forward to seeing you tomorrow at 5. Have a great night.
Great.
That's it. That's the pre-qual. You're done. Now, I don't have to fight with them. I don't need to do the presentation. Now, are sellers sometimes going to push you on that commission question? No. You need to tell me right now what you're going to charge.
Yeah, they do.
Right. They're going to do that. And you can deflect as much as possible, because you don't want to do your presentation over the phone. And one of the things with telling them what your commission is if you say your commission amount and that's not the amount they want to pay, they're already now kind of closing you off. So you gotta try to deflect as long as possible, but at some point you're probably gonna have to give in because you don't want it to get defensive, right? Because that's not before my appointment we're arguing. So at some point you're probably gonna have to give in. So keep that in mind. So this script is gonna be in the package that I email you guys, but if you need it, most of you probably have it. It's in your 90-day journals if you have those. But if you need this pre-qual script, we will get it. But as you can see, having that conversation with Mario, now it's a role play and he's not a real seller, but are those difficult questions to ask? No. So it's really important for you guys to start making the habit of doing this with every one of your appointments. Do it with everyone. Do it the night before, 2 days before, and just tell them, hey, I'm calling to confirm, but I had a couple questions as I'm preparing my presentation. Do you have a minute? Now, if you've got multiple sellers, you're going to have to do this a couple times unless you have them all in one phone call, right? Because could husbands and wives, brothers and sisters, fathers and sons have different motives and motivations to selling the property?
Yes.
Right? Absolutely. So if I have more than one seller, I got to make sure everybody gets these questions asked. Okay. All right. So let's move on. Any questions about the pre-qualifying before I move on? No, I think it's pretty straightforward. So I urge you guys to make that your habit of doing that before presentations. Now, preparation. Order a property profile immediately from your title rep, right? Call title right away. Get a property profile that's going to have the comps. It's going to have the buyers and sellers names. It's going to have the basic information that's going to be necessary for you as you prepare your presentation. So there's the cover sheet of a property profile from Stewart Title, right? In the preparation, I got to get a listing presentation. So we got a couple choices. We have the one that's in Century 21 that we made, the generic one about the office. It's an All Stars Connect that you guys can get, and you can add pages to it. It has 3 different versions. It has a PDF version. It has a PowerPoint version if you use Windows products, and it has a Keynote version if you use Apple products that you can use on your phone, on your iPad, and on your MacBook. Jose, you had a question.
Yeah, so you mentioned, okay, you get your property profile from title, and it has a comps, and obviously it has a suggested sale price. I mean, I'm still hesitant using that. I mean, or do you take that out of the property profile, or I mean,
I'm probably not even going to show them that part of the property profile. Just maybe the first page that shows, just to verify that stuff's right, and then I'm going to look at the loans just to make sure everything's okay. I'm not going to show them. I might show them the comps, but I'm not going to show them any suggested price or the median price or the average price. I want to build my CMA to show them the price that I feel is the right price for the property.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Okay. So you got this marketing plan of action. Now, if you want to do CMA, right, there's this one from Century 21 that you can get on 21 online. And then there's this is Toolkit CMA, the first one that says Relentless Real Estate Service Plan. And then the comparative market analysis, that's the next one, that's from Cloud CMA from DMLS. So you can use both of these, right? All 3 of these kind of together. You could merge the Cloud CMA and the information that comes from it into the listing presentation that we have in All Stars Connect, and vice versa with the Toolkit CMA. But you just have to figure out which tool is the works for you the best, right? So you have to make that decision. Is it going to be Toolkit CMA? Is it going to be Cloud CMA? This is not a pricing class, right? So it's just what you need to have in preparation. And for those of you who haven't been in the pricing class, there's a video on the YouTube channel that if you don't have the link, I'll send it to you. And we'll probably do a pricing class in a few months. But there's where we'll go into the pricing. But this one is just, I want to be prepared the day before, and I want to be prepared after I do my pre-qual, and that's going to help me to focus on price if I need to focus on the level of service if it's important, right? So if commission is a question, right? If commission is the issue, like with Mario, is how much do you charge? I know that's going to be an issue. Then I can go back here with this information from the office, and whatever information I supplement with my own sales, right? Because that's what you guys can do. You can use the power of the office if your own individual production isn't enough, because you don't feel it's enough, or you can supplement what's happening with the office. So I can use the information that's in this marketing plan of action to show why there is value for the seller, right? So that hiring me provides value that they don't get in other places. And that's what you have to be able to share. If you can't share value, if I can't show Mario value, it doesn't matter how much I charge. They're not going to hire. He's not going to hire me, right? And as you notice, the people who charge the lowest amount of commissions are the people that offer the least amount of value. They just are. I'm going to put a sign up in front of your house, and especially in this market right now, there's, to be honest, the only skill you need to have a good skill of is negotiating, because marketing is not selling your house, right? If you take a listing today and it's priced properly, it's going to sell. There is no question, right? It is what it is. There is no amount of marketing that's going to change how it sells. There's no amount of open houses that are going to change how it sells. If it's priced right, it will sell in this market. So your value now becomes a negotiating, right? So you have to be able to show that value of how I make sure that when you get this amount of money, that we negotiate strongly to make sure that you keep as much of it, or we get as close to that when we close, so that your net looks, similar to what it would if we get that price, right? Your negotiating skills are ultimately what the value is. Now you can start to share some of that stuff with them by the strength of the office. If you don't have strength of production for yourself, by showing them in the marketing presentation that we get more money for our sellers than the average for the last 3 years. We sell our homes faster than the average in the last 3 years. We were the #1 office in the state of California for the last 10 years. You can share all of those things with them, because that starts to show, but you got to show them that value for them, not for you. It can't be bragging, right? So if I walk into a listing presentation with Gilbert, I can't just talk about how great I am and how great the office is. I have to be able to display to him what that means for him, right? I have to get him to buy into that value of working with us. So when we're talking about this plan of action, it's a lot of questions, right? So if I say to Gilbert, by the way, Gilbert, over the last 3 years, we've got an average of 10% more for each one of our sellers on their listings. What does that mean for you? Right? See, now I'm asking him a question. Instead of me telling him, hey, we got 10% more for our sellers, and it means you're going to make this X much more by working with us. If I get him to answer the question, if he answers that question by telling me, well, if you get 10% more on average, that means I'm going to make more money selling my house if I list with you guys. Exactly. Right? See, I want him to get that buy-in. If he can answer that question, he's bought in. So it's understanding. And what I'll do is, I think one of the things that we should do in the next few weeks is I'm going to do an actual class on the listing presentation, so we can go through each page and we could talk about how to sell that value to the potential seller. Okay, how does that sound? We'll do that as we go through it. So we'll do something special.
Kyle, I think
Jesus.
that would be a great idea, in how to convert those conversations or statistics into a question. I think that'll be great.
Yeah. So we'll do that, because what I want you guys to understand is that when we're selling the value, it can't just be us bragging. It has to be, we have to be able to get them to grasp what that means for them, how it affects their life and their sales process. So we'll do that in the next few weeks. We'll do that kind of we'll do a whole kind of umbrella negotiating class, right? Where it's talking about selling value to the sellers. And then again, how we can negotiate as we do our counter offers with buyer's agents, and as a buyer's agent, how we can negotiate. We'll kind of wrap it all up into one big umbrella. I think we'll do that in the next few weeks. So we'll dig into those deeper, but have your plan of action ready, your CMAs ready, whichever one you choose to use. Okay. Now you've gotten the listing. We're going to assume you got the listing with the preparation that you did and the presentation you did and the CMA you did. So we're assuming you got the listing. So now we're going to talk about servicing and selling the listing. The CRMLS. So we're going to kind of go into how this is working right now with the CRMLS. And I know it's still confusing with the different settings or statuses that exist for your listings and the timing. So let's look at it. Okay. So if I take a listing today, it has to be added to the MLS, and it should say here 2 business days, within 2 business days. Okay. It has to be inputted into the MLS in some way in 2 business days. Now, business days are Monday through Saturday. Sunday is not a business day, and holidays are not business days. So if I take a listing anytime between Monday and Thursday, it's got to be in the system within 2 days, right? So if I take the listing on Thursday, that means Friday's day 1, Saturday's day 2. It has to be in the system by Saturday. If I take a listing on Friday or Saturday, I don't have to have it into the system until Monday at the earliest, right? If I take it on Friday, Saturday's day 1, Sunday doesn't count, Monday's day 2. So keep that in mind, that Sundays and holidays give you a little bit of a buffer. But at some point when I take that listing within 2 business days of that listing date, now it's either the start date of the listing or the date that it was signed, whichever one is later. So how many of you guys have been on a listing appointment before and you walk in with a list, or you get prepared for a listing appointment for tomorrow, so you date everything as the start date is tomorrow, the end date is 6 months or a year, whatever, and then the appointment gets delayed by a day or two, and we don't do new contract, right? We still have the start date as 3 or 4 days ago when we were supposed to have the appointment. So at that point, then the 2 days would start taking from the date they signed it, even though the start date was earlier. So it's whichever is later. If I sign it today, but the start date's not till Monday, I have 2 days from Monday to put into the MLS. Is that clear? So it's the date it was signed or the start date stated in the contract, whichever one is later. That's where you start counting your days for inputting it into the MLS. Now, you can either put it in as registered. Registered is one of the statuses now. That registered status is the same as the exclusion was, but I still have to put the information in. It's some basic information. It's your information for the board. It's the property address, it's the sales price, and it's the potential marketing date if there is one. That's all the information has to go in. That has to happen within 2 days. Okay. If I register a listing, I take that listing today, I put it in the MLS tomorrow as a registered listing. It's an active listing. It's just registered. I cannot market that property. That means no door knocking, no cold calling, no social media, no flyers, no sign, nothing. I could do nothing. I could do no marketing at all to the general public with that listing. Who can I market it to if it's registered? Every one of the agents in this office. Any buyer that has signed a disclosure regarding agency relationships with this office can be told about the property and can be shown the property while it's registered. So if, let's say, I have a registered listing today and I go across the street to Jim's or whatever that fast food place is, and I run into somebody that says, oh, hey, you're an agent, I'm looking for a house. And I say, hey, well, I have this new 3-bedroom, like I don't market it, right? Because he's the general public. He says, I'm looking for a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house in Norwalk. And that's where my listing is. If I have him sign a disclosure regarding agency relationships and tell him, hey, I have an off-market property, but before I can show you, I have you sign this. I can show him it. I can tell him about it. I can do everything I want. And I can sell that property before it hits the market. Okay. So registered, no marketing, but you can show it. Okay. Questions about registered? No, you guys all are clear on how registered works. Yeah, Mario, go ahead.
So I could show it to my buyers and it wouldn't be like, I wouldn't get in trouble at all.
As long as that buyer had signed a disclosure regarding agency relationships prior to you marketing the listing to them, yes, you're good. Right. So if it's a buyer you already have been working with, and then you get this listing after, you say, hey, I just got a new listing that's off market because they've already signed a buyer's representation or something with you, then you're good to go.
So now it would be a good thing to carry the blank buyer representation, because you could pretty much promote it anywhere you want, right?
Just the AD, like the disclosure. That's all you have to sign is the disclosure, not even the representation. So if you have them, yeah, if you can sign them electronically, you can tell people, hey, I have an off-market property I can't tell you about until I get you to sign this, and then I can take you and show you. Now, it's going to sound a little weird as you try to do it. It's more what they're trying to say is, hey, if we already have buyers in the brokerage, right? Like Mario has a buyer and I have a registered listing. And I say, hey, Mario, you have a buyer. Do you have a buyer that's looking for Norwalk, a 3-bedroom, 2-bath?
Yeah.
Yeah, great. Have you already started showing them properties? You sign an AD and everything with them?
Yeah.
Oh, great. I got one. It's off market. It's registered. If you want to take them to take a look at it.
Okay, great.
Okay.
You see,
Hey, Kyle,
yeah.
Okay, Kyle. So you say you're working with an agent and you're looking in this area. Well, I have this property here. So in that case, I mean, you're not, it kind of sucks to say, okay, I'm trying to, you know, I have this property, you know, they just happen to ask you a question.
Well,
They were
but
working with someone else. So
that's what
yeah,
I'm saying is you can't market it. Like you can't go in there and say, like, I can't go to, thanks Danny, to Chris's instead of Jim's, I called it. Can't go to Chris's and say to hey, everybody in Chris's, I have an off-market 3-bedroom, 2-bath listing. Is this the address? It's over here in Pico. If you want it, come see it. Like, I can't do that. Now, if I said to somebody, I do have an off-market 3-bedroom, 2-bath in Norwalk. If you're interested, let me know, but it's off-market. So if you have an agent, I'm sorry, right? I didn't tell them an address. I didn't tell them a price. So I'm not marketing it. I'm telling them I have one that's off-market. So it's, again, it becomes semantics almost in how we do things. So registered does have some flexibility to be able to sell it and show it. You just can't put up a sign. You can't put up a flyer. You can't put it on social media. You can't do any of that stuff. Now, if I do, let's say I registered it and I said it's never going to be marketed. And then one day my seller says, you know what, put a sign up today. And I put up a sign. I have one day after I put up that sign to make it either active or coming soon in the MLS. Right? So I can wait until that point to change it. So that brings us to coming soon. Coming soon is only for 21 days, right? It can only be coming soon status for 21 days. That's the maximum. You can't extend it. You can't take it out and put it back in. It's done. So you're either the whole 21 days or until you move it to active. Okay. Coming soon allows you to do everything as if it was active. I can show it. I can put a sign up. I can put it on, I can't show it. But I can market it. I can put a sign up. I can put it on social media. I can get all my pictures done. I can do everything I wanted to. I could go door knock it. I could cold call it. I could do all those things I want to. I just can't show it while it's coming soon. Okay. So that's the difference from registered. Registered, I can show it to people who I have a business relationship with, and that means anybody in this brokerage or anybody that has that agency disclosure signed with this brokerage. But in coming soon, I can market it to whoever I want, but I can't show it to anybody. Okay, because coming soon is just that. It's supposed to say, hey, we're letting you know that this property is coming soon, but there's some stuff that they have to do to get it ready. And once it's ready and it's active, then you guys can see it. Registered and coming soon, neither collect days on market. So if I have my property as coming soon or I have it as registered, it will not add to days on market because technically it is not on the market. Melissa asked in the chat, what's the point of making it registered? Why should we choose to only make it registered? There could be lots of things. You could have a seller that requests that it's not marketed. Right? Sometimes sellers who have units and tenants, they don't want signs up. They don't want on the MLS. They don't want people knocking on the doors. They don't want open houses. They don't want any of that stuff because they don't want people to know it's for sale. Really, the majority of the reason why people would want, before registered, when it was the exclusion, when things were excluded, was because you guys wanted to buy yourself some time to double end it. That was really why it was being done. There was, let's call spade a spade, right? So, but there could be a number of reasons. Like, I don't want to put it coming soon because coming soon is only 21 days and it's going to take 2 months or a month and a half to do the painting and the construction and the stuff that you need to do to get it ready to sell. So I want to take the listing today because I don't want to lose out on the opportunity, but I don't want it to count days on market. And you could have it registered forever and it's not going to count days on market. So there's some legitimate reasons why you would want to be registered as opposed to coming soon. Okay, so coming soon, at the end of 21 days, it automatically moves to active and that's it. You can't change it. You can't move it back. But remember, no days on market for registered or coming soon. Questions about coming soon? Yes, Mario, go ahead.
So let's just say the way I had it set up was that it's registered and then it's supposed to go active the 30th of this month. And I wanted to just go coming soon now. I can just do that anytime, right?
Yeah, you can.
Okay.
You can. Yeah.
I did have a question about you said you could do everything, so that includes virtual tours too, right?
It's a good question. The virtual tour, that's a great question. I'm not 100% on that. And the only reason I say that is because it's not supposed to be shown, which means it's not ready for sale. So I don't know if that kind of breaches the showing part of it because you're doing the tour, but I don't think so. And that's a great question. I'm going to try to find out for sure for you
Okay.
guys.
Let's just say you can do virtual tours. What are the
Mhm.
rules regarding that? Does it have to be like non-branded to be in the MLS, or how does?
Yeah, if it's going into the MLS, it has to be non-branded, right? So you can't show, just like your pictures, you can't show the sign in your video. It can't have All Stars and your contact information and stuff like that in the public video, because that video gets shared all over the place, and now you're getting your
Will it like if you put that virtual tour in there, and that same one will go into like Zillow and those other places?
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So, all right. So coming soon. And then we have active. We all know what that means. Active starts counting days on market. Now, as far as paperwork goes, there's a couple things, right? You can either still do, if you're going to do registered, you can still do the exclusion, the seller exclusion from the, but you don't have to use it, but you could still get this one signed, or you could get the, this is for coming soon. The MLS has a coming soon status form, and that's from CRMLS. That's for you to get a signature from your seller that says they understand and acknowledge you're putting it coming soon. On top of that coming soon, in the listing agreement, right? If we look in the listing agreement as far as coming soon and registered goes, if you look in the listing agreement, and it's going to be right there. If you look at it's paragraph 7D 1 and 2, seller instructs broker to market the property to the public and to start marketing on the beginning date this agreement, or check the box, right? Put a date in there, you can see it. Or number 2, seller instructs broker not to market the property to the public. Seller understands that no public marketing will occur, and the scope of marketing that will occur will consist only to direct one-on-one promotion between the brokers and licensees affiliated with the listing brokerage and their respective clients. So if you check 2, that's the same as the old exclusion that we used to have, and that allows you to put the property in as registered. Okay, and that's in the listing agreement. Or you could use the SELM if you still want to use it. And if you're going to start marketing at a later date, the coming soon. That's your coming soon. Okay. Questions about that part? Active, coming soon, registered. Any questions? The forms, any of that? Yes, Patricia.
Question. You said that we could use the forms. Are they required or not?
No. It's required. You either have to do it here in the listing agreement, or you have to use those forms. So that's why I'm showing you in listing agreement, paragraph 7D 1 and 2 will handle those forms as long as that's filled out when they sign the listing. Okay. All right.
Kyle,
Yes, this was
something that happened to me. I gave Jenny my listing, and she put us a register, and then I went independently and put us an active. I didn't realize that she had a register, and now when I go to my listings, it's always there. So we got to be careful, because once it's there, you won't be able to delete it. So you got to double check if it is registered or not, or make the changes directly to the register that Jenny did.
Yeah, well, this I will tell you guys. Whenever you turn in the listings, if she gets them and she's probably going to put them as registered, just to make sure that we're within the time periods, to try to save you guys from getting any kind of violations or fines. Oh, going back, sorry, that just reminded me. Going back to the registered and the coming soon. Okay. If you have a property as registered and you market it and you don't put it as active or coming soon after you market it, the fine for that is 1% of the purchase price. So, and there's no disputing it. There's no
Repeat that again, please.
hearing.
Repeat that again.
If I have a listing that's registered, okay, and I start marketing it, right, which you can do, right? Like I took a registered listing today, let's say, and on the weekend you said, you know what, I'm going to go ahead and go door knock it, or I'm going to hold an open house on it, and I hold the open house. By Monday, I have to have it active. And if I do that, right, if I take that action, by Monday, it has to be active in the MLS. So let's say Monday comes and goes and I don't do it, and I get reported to the board. The board finds out I held an open house on a registered listing and I didn't put it active one day after I started marketing it, one business day. then they will fine me 1% of the sales price for marketing a registered listing. So you guys got to be really careful with that. That's why it's not to be toyed with, because that's a hefty fine, man. I think with the amount of the sales prices that we have, 1% is going to be a lot. Yes, Jose.
No, I was just gonna say I thought it was loophole for us, in our favor, but it's more, it's all business, so the DRE can get more money. I'm just kidding.
Well, look, I'm gonna say something as like a devil's advocate for the different settings, right? The different statuses. The truth is that the majority of agents that withhold a listing from the MLS don't do it as any kind of constructed business plan where they've discussed it with their seller. They're doing it for one reason and one reason alone. I want to hold this to myself, pocket listing, so I could double lend it. That's why. Now, is that really a benefit to the seller? Is that a benefit to the seller that I hold it off the market, that I keep it from the thousands of other agents that are going to look at it until I find my buyer? The answer is no. No, the answer is no. And so this is less about the MLS trying to collect fines from you guys, and it's more about transparency for us as listing agents to tell the truth to our sellers, that if I am withholding it, this is the reason why I'm withholding it, and they're clearly aware that it's being withheld from marketing. Otherwise, put it in as active. You guys can still have the same chance of double lending with it being active or coming soon as you would be with it being registered and being a pocket listing. So I will play devil's advocate for that for a moment. Yeah, Mario, go ahead.
So can other agents be like, hey, you have this listing, it's been coming soon for 2 weeks, and I've been showing it like it's a regular listing. Will I get in trouble?
Yeah, if you've been showing it and somebody reports you, yes,
You can't show it. You can only tell about it.
Yeah, coming soon, you can only market it. You can't show it.
Can't show it.
Yep, you cannot.
any way-
And that will be the same fine as marketing a registered. The 1% of the purchase price.
What if the seller wants to show it?
Then you got to put it active.
Or what if they want to show it like on their own? And I don't choose to show it. They show it on their own.
Well, but I mean, if they show it to somebody who's not an agent, nobody's going to turn you in. I mean, you can't control what your seller's doing on, but you could tell them, hey, by the way, you could tell everybody you want about this, but if you have a buyer that has an agent that you show it to, and while we're coming soon, that I could get in trouble for that. I mean, tell them the truth.
And what's the time frames? Like as soon as you show it, or like, let's say you want to start showing tomorrow, do you have any leeway, or it's the same day? As soon as there's a showing, it has to change status?
No, you have one business day, right? So if I show it today, or if I put a sign up today on a registered, or whatever I'm changing the status, then it has to be active or coming soon tomorrow. Or it has to be active tomorrow.
Got it. Okay.
Okay. Gilbert?
Yeah, so if it's a coming soon, technically you could have an open house on Sunday and then just
No.
put it active on Monday.
Well, yeah, you could. If it's coming soon, you could do it. I would just suggest, so you guys don't have to do, like, instead of like, let's find a way to be as like, just walk the line, just make it active the day you're going to do the open house. I mean, you're going to do it the next day anyway, so make it active the day of the open house. It might as well. I mean, just let's not mess around and try to push the limits to see how far we can get before we get fined.
Okay, I was asking for a friend.
Yeah, I'm sure you were.
Now, let's go back to that. So I see a lot of agents, doing, putting it on hold, obviously because too many showings and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden they become active. Is that,
Mhm.
Are they doing it just because they want to eliminate the number of days on the market?
Well, could be. Yeah. I mean, look, here's the thing. Once I go active, right? Once I go active, the days on market start counting. Okay, active. If I put it on hold, then what happens is while it's on hold, the days on market aren't counting, but the cumulative days on market are, right? So you know how you see those two different numbers, right? You see days on markets that says DOM, CDOM. That's the cumulative days on market. And so what happens is when I'm on hold, it stops counting those active days on market, but it still shows when I go back again, it starts adding to those cumulative days, but it doesn't count the days it's on hold.
I see.
So,
Okay.
So the yes, it will affect the days on market, but you can legitimately put something on hold. And now it's like hold is 30 days. It used to be 7 days was the max, and you have to keep redoing it. Now it's 30 days. You can put stuff on hold and it'll stop that counting of the days on market. So again, I don't want you guys to try to figure out the sneakiest way to do it. I think if you're legitimately doing it coming soon because they're getting the property ready for you guys to show, then that's legit. And then as soon as you're ready to be active, make it active, even if it's earlier than 21 days or earlier than the time you thought. But it's just to be safe. And especially for you guys working here, there's a target on your back. So anything that we don't do right, I believe me, it is going to get reported. So you got to really be careful with those things. There was a couple other people that unmuted. I think Karen and Juan Carrera.
Hey, Kyle, I got a quick question for you.
Yes, Juan.
So if you have a coming soon and you receive an offer
Mm-hmm.
and it fits the seller's needs,
Mm-hmm.
what he's looking for, can you go ahead and open escrow without it being active, or do you got to convert it into active?
No, you can go ahead straight to pending. If you get an offer subject to interior inspection, right? You didn't show it, but somebody sent you an offer subject to interior inspection. Yes, you can accept that offer. You can open escrow without ever putting it active.
Okay.
But you still have to put that clause where it says
Subject to interior inspection.
No. You know how you would say, okay, if you double ended or whatever, you had to put a clause saying that the property sold before it even hit the market or something like that, right?
No. That the sold before publishing. No, if you're coming soon, it doesn't matter.
Oh, okay.
If you're coming soon, it doesn't matter, and if you're registered, it doesn't matter. So it doesn't matter. It was already in the system. You don't have to put the sold before publishing. That was something we used to do when we were doing it wrong, where we weren't ever putting anything in, no exclusions, no anything. And all of a sudden we had a closed escrow and we wanted to get, and then the agent wants to get credit for it in the MLS. So that's why you do that sold before publishing. So yes, Juan, you can accept an offer. It has to be subject to interior inspection and you have no issue with that.
How about if they didn't put that clause on there?
Well, then if somebody reports it, like if there's somebody has some questions about it, or they report you to the board, like, hey, this was coming soon and now it's an escrow, and how can they do that? Then you could have a problem if they request a copy of the purchase agreement and it shows nothing about that subject to. So they're going to question, well, how did you do it?
Hey, Juan, what's that address again? I'm just joking.
It's coming soon on the MLS.
All right. So we're spending a lot of time on this. Let's wait to move on. And if you have any other questions, type them in the chat. Okay, so your photos. If I put something in the MLS today as active or coming soon, I have 5 days to put at least one photo in. So if you don't have all your photos, right? Like I know that one of the things is like I put it as registered because I'm waiting till I get all the photos. You don't have to have all the photos in. You don't even have to have one photo in until 5 days after you have it as active or coming soon. So if you want to put it coming soon, just so you don't violate the listing or you go through all the go registered, then coming soon, then this, you could do one picture of the front of the property, put it as coming soon, and then you don't have to worry about it. You can get your pictures in when you get them in. Now, the MLS only requires one photo of the front of the property. For us at Century 21, we need a minimum of 6 if you guys want the website and the video and all that other stuff that Century 21 does for you. So keep that in mind, okay? You won't have that stuff made until you have at least 6 pictures, okay? So 5 days. From the day I put it in, I have 5 days to get the pictures.
Kyle,
Yes.
and that by having one picture, that will also go to CLO right away, and the rest syndicates. The other
Yeah,
syndicates.
it'll still syndicate. You just won't get those other things, the videos and the websites and stuff like that.
And
If you guys
after
are,
we get them, do we have to update it, or she does it automatically?
well, if she's not going to know automatically. If you want her to update it, then you got to send them to Julie, to the listing coordinator, to get those things updated. Okay. If you hire a professional photographer, there are licensing issues with professional photographers. So there's a form called the PIA. And what that PIA does, if you have your photographer signs this agreement, this licensing agreement for your images, then you won't have any problems. You won't violate any copyright agreements with that professional photographer, because there are issues with the professional photographer. Okay. Okay. So keep that in mind. Be careful with professional photographer images. Do not ever use any pictures from the MLS, even if you were the buyer's agent on the sale of a property that you want to market that you sold it. Do not use the pictures from the MLS. Go take another picture, and that's how you're going to market it. Because if you use the picture from the MLS, you could be violating a licensing agreement with that photographer, and you could be subject to copyright violation charges, and those could be as high as $10,000 per violation. Okay, so please be careful with licensed images. Okay, let's move on.
Is there a quick question, Kyle, on that perspective? Is there a statute of limitations on them taking pictures from a different?
No.
It could be like from 10 years ago, and they can come back at you and.
Yes.
Gotcha.
Yes. Do not. Yes, Jesus.
Can we just send them an email to ask them for permission?
Nope. Nope. Unless the professional photographer gives you the permission, no, you cannot. Nobody can give you permission to use those pictures except for the photographer, period. That's it. And trust me, guys, we've had at least 4 phone calls with threats of copyright violation lawsuits that could go into, if the photographer wanted to, could go into the hundreds of thousands of dollars. And it's so ridiculous for these stupid property pictures that's a possibility. But why do you even want to think about it? Don't use any pictures from Google. Don't use any pictures from the MLS that aren't yours or that you didn't pay for. And make sure your licensing agreement that you have with your professional photographer allows for you to use those pictures in more than just the MLS, that you can use it everywhere. And that's what the PIA does. So use that form. Okay, the listing coordinator can input your listings for you. They can upload the exclusions, which I should have taken out because we don't really need those. But if you have one, they can upload those for you. They can do all that stuff for you. So use them. The listing coordinator can upload all of your photos, and they're going to order your for sale sign for you. So you have people to take care of that stuff. You just need to let them know. And the way you do that is you send her the listing agreement and the photographs and say, here you go, Julie, here's my listing agreement. Here's the photos. I need to sign up for this. And then they'll send you the MLS input sheet. You answer the questions. They'll input the listing for you, and you're done, right? You can move on, start looking for another listing. You can call Brianna, and with that new property, you get 200 free color flyers. You can get those from Brianna. Just make sure you order them right away as soon as you take the listing. Okay. If you want to create your own flyers, you can do it on 21online.com through Business Builder, or you can go to All Stars Connect. So on Business Builder, or on 21 Online, you go here to do that, or you go to All Stars Connect, and you got that little marketing piece up there. You can create your own flyers for your properties also. If you don't want to use, there's what the flyers look like on All Stars Connect. It's if you don't want to order them from Brianna, but you get 200 free. Brianna will make them for you, print them, and have them ready for you within 24 hours. If you're going to do open houses, now is the time to schedule the first open house. Do it early, right after you take the listing, especially if you guys want to do that now. I know everybody's excited that open houses are back. Don't know that if in this market they're 100% necessary, but if you're going to do it, now's the time to do it. And when you do it, make sure you let the listing coordinator know. You let Julie know, because when you schedule that open house, we can upload it into the system, and it'll go on to realtor.com. It'll go on to Zillow. It'll go to Trulia, if that's still around, and it'll go on to the MLS. Right, so that you'll be able to have as much exposure as possible that you're having an open house. The earlier you do it, the better, because it takes about 24 hours for it to show up. So if you got to wait, if you don't turn the information in for your open house until Friday, it's probably not even going to hit the internet until Saturday when you're holding the open house. So do it as early as you can. Do it right away. As soon as you have the scheduled date, make sure you email Julie that you have the open house so she can input all the information into Century 21 so that it goes to all the different websites and onto the MLS. Okay, the most exposure you can get, the better. Okay, order your prelim. I think that the title companies are allowing you now to get prelims early. They used to, like for a while, there was a stretch where you couldn't order it without an escrow. But if you talk to your title rep, see if you can get a prelim. The reason I say get the prelim early is so you can discuss any issues that may show up prior to having an escrow already open, right? If there's liens or there's things on there that the seller didn't know about or didn't disclose or forgot about, you can start dealing with them prior to you guys having an escrow already, where now the time crunch is in. Okay, so order that. If you're going to do termite, which I don't think you guys need to do anywhere, but if you are, order the termite report now so you have it before you get any offers, so you can adjust price, so you can disclose it to the potential buyers. and order the city pre-sale inspection right now. If I take my listing today, I want to make sure my seller's at the city of Southgate tomorrow to go make sure they get that pre-sale inspection because of the time it takes. I want to do everything I can to make sure I have that pre-sale inspection before I have to deliver it to a buyer. Okay, so order it. Push to do that with your seller as early as possible after taking the listing. Complete all the disclosures, and that includes your avid. Do that right away. Do that as soon as you possibly can after taking the listing. If not at the listing appointment itself, you want them to have that all that stuff done. Now, when we accept the offer, what's going to happen is I'm going to turn in my file to my transaction coordinator, and I'm going to turn that in with an open escrow sheet. Okay, the open escrow sheet looks like this. So now you have the open escrow sheet. If you look at it, it just shows you, and I think it's been updated now. So there's some stuff on here that's not, yeah, it's really old. I got to put a new one on there. But you can fill in, and what it does is it gives the information for the buyers, for the sellers, for the other agent, for the title company, for the lender. It gives your transaction coordinator the information they need to get the file open in the system in SkySlope so that they can now manage the file and introduce themselves to all the parties. Okay. So now what we're going to do is we're going to look at the time periods. Right. So remember I said order that report as early as possible. Well, because we know that as we get an offer accepted, we got to make sure that the deposit is in with the 3 business days of acceptance. So if it's not in within 3 business days of acceptance, right, if they didn't do it, then I got to send them a notice to buyer to perform. That's my first time to do it. So again, what I'm saying, what I'm getting you guys ready to do is to just know that these are the steps that I'm going to take every time I get an offer accepted now on the listing that I spent my time, marketing and servicing. So you send the NBP if they don't put the deposit in. You have 7 days after acceptance to deliver all the disclosure and reports. And that's why I said, do the disclosures, get the city inspection report done, get all that stuff done so that when I get an offer accepted, I have it all to deliver in 7 days. Okay. If I'm delayed in delivering that, it extends the buyer's investigation contingency period. So if I drop the ball on the stuff I'm supposed to do for my seller, I've now opened up more time that the buyers have the right to walk away. I've given them the loophole to walk away. So I've got to make sure that I've got everything buttoned up and tightened, because the later I am, the later they don't have to remove their inspection investigation contingency. And the time is 5 days after I deliver to them my reports if I'm late. Okay. So keep that in mind. Make sure the escrow instructions are signed and returned, right? So a lot of this stuff is about how you manage your seller's time also. It's like, hey, we have a timeline that we have to follow. So please, can you do this? You have to get escrow instructions signed and returned within 5 days of receipt. And that includes the SI. And the SI is the one that I think gets missed the most, is because we don't have escrow instructions signed right away, or we miss something. The SI could cause a problem in the transfer of title and delay our escrow. So we have to make it clear to our seller that the SI is one of the most important things we can do. And the earlier, if I could get an SI from title when I call them to order the prelim, I'll have them fill out an SI and give it to them then, so that they can start running the seller against the general index and reduce the amount of time we need to find out if we have clear title to transfer. So a lot of these things are just stuff that we have to be thinking of, that we can take steps in advance to make sure that things move smoothly for our sellers. Now, I'm going by default dates here. I know everything else gets adjusted now in these escrows and get removed at the beginning, but we're going by general dates because we want to follow what the contract says. So 17 days after acceptance, the buyer is to remove their inspection investigation and appraisal contingencies, right? Those 2 contingencies are 17 days. I'm assuming they're intact. If they don't do that, then I want to send them a notice to buyer to perform. I want you guys to get in the habit of notices to perform, because what it does is it shows your seller that you are actively involved in the transaction and that you're trying to keep everybody on time. Okay. Now you can send an NBP as early as 2 days prior to the contractual obligation. So if I am on time, I did all my disclosures and reports, I got everything to the buyer, then on day 15, I can send them a notice to perform to remove their appraisal and their inspection contingencies. I can do that 2 days prior. So again, what it does is it keeps everything moving and flowing, and it doesn't get us to that place where we struggle with our sellers, is that we are 2 weeks past when they should have removed contingencies. And now we're having that discussion about removing contingencies and the deal falling apart. And can we keep their deposit and can we not? So I'm going to use notices to perform. Even if I don't cancel, even if I don't want to cancel, I'm still going to use them because it's a record of me showing that I'm working for my seller to keep this transaction on time. Okay. 21 days after acceptance, the buyers to remove their loan contingency. Again, if they don't do that, it is NBP, and I can do it on day 19. I can send that notice to buyer to perform to them. Look, the loan contingency, again, doesn't say when you have full loan approval. It says you have 21 days to figure this out and remove the contingency. I'm not waiting till you're at loan docs for you to remove your contingency. So the notices to perform become really important because I never want the seller to come back and say, you didn't do what you were supposed to do. I want proof that I did. And this is how I'm providing a service to them. Make sure the seller has completed all the repairs. You got to stay on your sellers. And I think sometimes what happens is if the seller agrees to do repairs, we kind of just let them go with it. You guys got to stay on them, make sure they're getting prepared to move, right? That they're whatever the timelines in the contract that we agree to for them to be out, that they're on time with those. Okay. All of those repairs have to be done by the final walkthrough. And if they're not done at the final walkthrough, then you have to agree to extend the escrow because you don't want to close it with those repairs not being done, because then it adds extra liability to my seller as far as damages go. And I don't want to do that. So you gotta stay on your seller to make sure they have all the repairs done prior to the final walkthrough. Make sure you're even trying to schedule with the buyer the final walkthrough 5 days prior. As you start to get to that close of escrow date, then you start pushing, hey, when are you gonna do your final walkthrough? It's important that we kind of let it go as the listing agent that, oh, they'll schedule their walkthrough, or that walkthrough's for them, it's not for me. But those late walkthroughs are just as much trouble for me and my seller as they are for buyer's agents when you guys do them late, because I have to deal with the nonsense of them doing their final walkthrough the day before we close and then having a problem. And then we have to try to figure out how to fix this problem with 24 or 48 hours before we actually record the deal. Juan, you had a question.
Yeah, I have a question for you, kind of regards to that final walkthrough.
Mm-hmm.
If you're doing your final walkthrough, let's say 5 days before,
Mm-hmm.
and there's no evidence of the seller moving at this point,
Mm-hmm.
and he needs to extend the close of escrow because he hasn't found his replacement home, even though there's not a replacement contingency. How do you go about doing that final walkthrough?
Well, you'll still do your final walkthrough, and then you'll do another one when they move out after whatever the extension is.
But that's what I'm saying. If there's no extension and there's no
well, but what do you mean there's no extension? Then you're going to close with him in possession.
Right.
Okay, well then you close with him in possession, but you still have to negotiate with a seller in possession addendum or a residential lease after sale, however long he's going to stay, and then you handle that as part of that when they move out.
Okay, so then you're going to have to take an extra step.
Well, yeah, but again, here's the thing: you shouldn't close. If you go to do your final walkthrough, you shouldn't have signed loan docs yet. You shouldn't be at the point where you're going to record. So you should be like, hey, we're not going to sign docs and we're not going to close until we think he's ready to move out, because right now it says he's supposed to be out on the closing date of escrow. We're 5 days before and he hasn't packed a thing. So nope, we need some assurances that he's going to be out. But what happens is you guys don't do your final walkthrough until after you've already signed loan docs or after the loan is already funded. And now I have very few days to do anything, so I can't extend it. And that's why I'm talking about it. As listing agent, as much as buyer's agent, I'm going to be on you like, hey, you guys need to do your final walkthrough. I'm going to be on it too, because I don't want to deal with this nonsense either. Like, I'm going to be on my seller. The problem is that both things happen. Buyer's agents don't talk to the buyers. Listing agents don't talk to the sellers, and they have no control over either party. And so their sellers, and again, I can't make somebody get out, but at least if I know that my seller is dragging his feet, I'm not going to wait for you guys to do your walkthrough and come to me and say, hey, the seller hasn't moved out. I'm going to go to you and say, hey, we got an issue. Seller hasn't moved out yet. I'm on him. I'm trying to get him to move out. Here's an extension. Don't sign your loan docs yet because I don't know when he's going to get out. See, like, that's me being a good proactive listing agent, which listing agents don't do. And it's the same thing with me as a buyer's agent. I'm going to be like, hey, I went to go do the walkthrough and this guy hasn't moved a damn thing. We need an extension. That would be the next stop. But if I'm behind the 8 ball because I've already signed loan docs or it's already refunded, then I don't even have the ability to negotiate an extension. So it doesn't work for either party. Do you guys see where I'm going with that?
Yeah, I get it. I get it.
Okay. All right. So final walkthrough. Yes.
Sorry,
Mario, go ahead.
Are we allowed to disclose any terms and sales price to the other agents when they submit offers?
Yes.
Any of that stuff? It's game. We don't
Yeah,
have-
there's nothing confidential unless I have a written confidentiality agreement with the seller.
Okay, perfect. So I can even tell them like you have to make seller's not going to accept, but we have an offer at 550 with 2 months back free. I could just say that.
Yep. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, there's nothing that stops you from that. So we talked about this already. Verify that your seller's ready to move out or their plans are whatever, dependent on what we've agreed to in the contract. You got to tell your sellers to clean up the trash, man. They can't leave by lack of a better expression, they can't leave shit behind. And it's really annoying. I get it as a buyer's agent when your buyer moves in and they call you and they say this is all full of crap. So you guys got to be really strong with your sellers too and remind them. And part of this starts at the beginning of this. When I'm doing my listing presentation and I've signed the listing, hey, here's what's going to happen during the process of the sale, just like we talked about in the buyer process where we prepare the buyer for the sale. Same thing for the seller. And we got to kind of remind them, hey, you got to clean this place out. You can't leave any trash behind. Karen, you had a question?
No.
Oh, I just saw you unmuted, so I thought you did.
Oh, no, sorry.
Yes, Patricia.
Do we consider ourselves in compliance when we send it to the, disclosures, when we send it to their escrow officer? Are we done there? The reason that I ask is because I was working with an escrow officer who was not on their end, who was our listing coordinator, who was not following up on their emails. And it looked like we were delayed, but we were sending our stuff on time. He just wasn't up to speed on his emails. So do I consider myself in compliance with the 7 days to deliver disclosure once I email it to him?
Yeah, but I mean, I would be CCing multiple people when I'm emailing anything to a transaction coordinator. So yeah, as long as you've done that, then yeah, you're fine.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Get all the keys from the lockbox. Take your lockbox off once they finish their final walkthrough because you're going to want to deliver the keys. You don't want to leave them on there. Order the sign down. So you got to call Julie, the listing coordinator, let her know that the escrow's closed so you can order the sign down, get it down. Now, if you don't do that, we do that here when we close everything out. That's part of our system. When we close it out is the listing coordinator orders the signs down if there was a sign ordered up. So we have that in the background if you guys don't do that, but it's just more, I want you guys to be active in it to let people know that something is closed, right? And stay on top of it. Now close it out in the MLS. Again, if you don't notify Julie, part of our closing procedure when you guys get paid is we will close it out in the MLS if it's not already closed in the MLS. So you do have a backstop with the listing coordinator, but if you do your own MLS stuff, you guys can close it when you want to too, but just make sure you close it timely. Also, be careful of auto closes. If you have any extensions in your escrows, make sure you go into that MLS or let the listing coordinator know that you need to adjust the closing date because you don't want to get a violation for an auto close. So be careful for that too. All right. Once it's done, like I said, the listing coordinator can do this and they will do it once it closes through our system. Congratulations, because you just closed an escrow. Yes, Danny, go ahead.
Quick question. When it comes to the automated closing, what if you totally are spazzed out and you totally forget to go ahead and correct the actual date of the close of escrow? Can you go back a few days and justify that, correct that?
I think you have don't quote me on the days, but I think there's like a 5-day grace period on the auto closes.
Okay.
Right. So if let's say that your close date is today, but it doesn't close until, it's not going to close. It won't go to auto close today. It's going to wait 5 days and then it'll auto close. So it'll give you time to catch up. I think it's 5 days. Yes, Karen.
Okay, so yeah, I'm part of the grievance committee, so I know a little bit about that. It does give you 5 days, and after those 5 days, you still have 2 additional days where they send you emails. Like, hey, by the way. But if you don't do it after those 2 additional days, then you'll get fined.
Yeah, there you go. Thank you, Karen. I appreciate it.
I should have just knocked on my neighbor's door.
Yeah. All right, so that's the stuff that we got. So again, this video is going to be up on YouTube. If you guys want the checklist, which is right here, right, just kind of a task list for you guys to go through to check off to make sure you've kind of followed all the things that we talked about. If you want these things, just send me an email and I'll email it back to you. All of the notes, right, a little pamphlet about this and this task list, and then you guys know this is on my YouTube. Ayanna, you had a question.
Yes. So one was this checklist, and then the other was the listing coordinator. Check like what all does she do and how I can contact her.
It's Julie Romero. So her email is julie.romero@c2andallstars.com. You could call her. I have to look up her extension, but I don't know what it is. So, but you can email her everything. Julie.romero@c2andallstars.com. They will input your listing based off of the MLS input sheet that you give them. They'll upload your pictures. They'll order your sign up and down. They'll make sure everything's updated in all of the systems. So just that's your go-to, right, for that stuff. Yes, Mario, go ahead.
And this is kind of a random question, just more of an opinion thing. I see a lot of agents putting their backyard as the first picture on the MLS, like the pool. Is that something you'd recommend doing, or just put the front of the house?
I mean, I have no idea. I don't know why that would be the first picture. I think that I don't know. I have no idea, but I would always put front of the house would be my first picture. I would think, unless the front of the house looks terrible.
Okay. By the way, Julie's extension is 206. That's Jenny's old. Okay.
Kyle,
Yes.
Kyle, so when do you recommend to do the final walkthrough?
I thought I was pretty clear about that. 5 days prior to closing. No. So here's the thing. When your lender tells you, if you're the buyer's agent, if your lender tells you they're ready to order docs, that's when you should schedule your final walkthrough.
Okay, so I had a scenario where we did the final walkthrough, and they still had the washer and the dryer in the second floor, and they said they were going to remove it before closing. So we signed everything, but they left it, which was a hassle for the buyer to get the those appliances down. I just wanted to, in this particular case, what's a recommendation for the buyers? Just don't sign the final walkthrough, or don't do the final walkthrough until everything is.
Well, no, if you find the final walkthrough is not a contingency. So if you find that there's an issue with the property during the final walkthrough, then the next step is we need to extend escrow. If you need to extend escrow to get the washer and dryer out, but we're not signing loan docs, we're not recording, we're not funding until these things are repaired. If you don't have the ability to do that, then ultimately it's going to be your buyer's responsibility. And if they want to go after the sellers for any damages, they could. In small claims
I took care of it, but it's just because there's little things that the seller sometimes they don't think about.
It's going to happen. It's going to happen. You're not going to have it's more often than not, you don't have a perfect where it closes and everything is perfect. Like, it happens. And it happens more often when you guys wait too late to do your final walkthrough, because then you don't have any time to negotiate anything else. So, all right.
Thank you.
Any other questions before you go? We went a little long. I apologize. Yes, Ayanna.
For the residential active sale, should we still do the final walkthrough to check for repairs?
You can do 2 of them. Yeah, you want to make sure that the repairs are done. You could do one before it closes, and then you could do one when they move out.
Okay.
All right. All right, guys. Thank you so much for being here. I know we went a little long, so I apologize for that. If you guys, again, send me the email for the paperwork, right? The checklist and the pamphlet. And then if you don't have my YouTube channel, email me for that also. So other than that, thanks guys for being here. I appreciate it. Talk to you soon.